Jeffries, are they signing on to this bill you're proposing or letter just kind of asking Biden to reverse it?
Yeah, so this is something that the letter, I believe, is, I'm not sure if it's closed to signatories yet, it just closed, but this is something that we've been in active conversation with Democratic leadership. And I also want to add that this goes beyond just congressional leadership. We have governors in states across the country, including here in New York with Governor Kathy Hochul saying expand these legal pathways, make it easier for these folks to get work authorizations. Here in New York, we are ready to put people to work. We just need the administration to help us expand those pathways to let them do that. We can do this, and we can do this together. Thank you.
Many immigration experts that I've spoken with have said, and I'm sure you all would agree, that the asylum system is backlogged right now, and that's causing a really serious issue. What reforms do you think need to be made to address that? Should there be clear guidelines with regards to what qualifies as asylum?
You know, I think there's a couple of things. There's the regulatory issues that we have, and there's statutory issues. Right now, there are regulatory regimes in place that extend these backlogs and make them longer than necessary, these 180-day wait periods, for example. But also, when we look at our work here in Congress, we devote so many resources to places in DHS that are very focused on enforcement, and not enough resources in places like USCIS to ensure that we can process these backlogs. So there's things that we can do here, and I believe that there's regulatory changes. And one last question.
Is there anything that Congress can do to force the administration's hand on this? And to Congressman Bush's point on this, those Republican-led lawsuits in 20-plus states now, are you worried that your positions are going to make it really hard for the administration to compromise or win on this?
Well, you know, sorry, let me start with your first question. And your first question was, could you repeat that?
If Congress can do anything to force the administration's hand?
Well, you know, I think there's a couple of things. We have some wonderful new members of the House that may be joining the Oversight Committee with Representative Kassar, as well as Cori Bush's excellent work, Yvette Clarke's excellent work in oversight through the process of sending letters to the administration. I think that one of the things that we can do, whether it's the Trump administration or the Biden administration conducting very strong oversight of the conduct of DHS, there still is a lot of outstanding questions that they have to answer. Congress does have the power of the purse. And while Republicans have control, have the majority right now, we also have a Senate majority. Democrats have a Senate majority, and I believe that we can be using our allocation of resources to not just push back against the administration, but to open these paths to citizenship and make it easier to process. Thank you.
Ocasio-Cortez for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, it has been repeated, and I would also like to repeat that the allegations being presented by the majority are extremely serious, and the prospect of impeachment is also a gravely serious matter, which has been echoed by our witnesses today. And any serious impeachment investigation or inquiry relies on firsthand sworn testimony of witnesses to high crimes or misdemeanors. Today, the Republican majority has called in 3 witnesses to advance their case. Mr. Turley, I have a simple question for you. In your testimony today, are you presenting any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
No, I'm not.
No, you are not. Ms. O'Connor, you are the second Republican witness here today. Have you, in your testimony, presented any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
I have not.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Dubinsky, as the third and final Republican witness in this hearing, have you, in your testimony, presented any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
I have not.
And Professor Gerhardt, given that you are the minority witness, I assume the same, correct?
I'm not a fact witness, correct.
Thank you. And to clarify, 2 individuals presented today who do have firsthand accounts surrounding the progeny of these allegations are being blocked from testifying by the Republican majority. And I want to explain why this is important. Members of Congress, all of us in this hearing, are not under oath, as we are presently covered by the speech and debate clause. Isn't that correct, Professor Gerhardt?
That is correct.
And the speech and debate clause covers all statements by a member of Congress, whether they are factual or not. There are only 4 people in this room that are presently under oath in their testimony. And those are the 4 witnesses here today. Is that correct, Professor Gerhardt?
That is correct.
And so the direct testimony of the 4 individual witnesses here today are the bona fide words that this committee must use in order to proceed or substantiate an investigation. And I want to emphasize why that's important. Earlier today, one of our colleagues, a gentleman from Florida, presented up on this screen something that appeared to be a screenshot of a text message containing or insinuating an explosive allegation. That screenshot of what appeared to be a text message was a fabricated image. It was a fabricated image. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was the staff of the committee, but it was not the actual direct screenshot from that phone. And in fact, I would like to submit to the committee the actual full context from the Ziegler Affidavit number 1, Exhibit 402, of the full text of that exchange. Do I have permission from the chair? Importantly, what was brought out from that fabricated image excluded critical context that changed the underlying meaning and allegation that was presented up on that screen by this committee and by members of this committee. Now, they are well within their right to do that because they are covered by the speech and debate clause. This was not submitted by a material or fact witness under oath. That was not submitted by a material or fact witness under oath. The impeachment inquiry, any impeachment inquiry, regardless of party, is an extremely serious matter. Professor Gerhardt, in the impeachment inquiry into President Clinton, were there key fact witnesses that were presented during those proceedings?
They were not in the House.
Mm-hmm. In the Senate, were there any?
There were.
There were in the Senate. Now, in the impeachment, in the impeachment investigations with respect to President Trump, were there key material fact witnesses in the House?
Yes, ma'am.
There were. Are there any key material fact witnesses here today?
No, ma'am.
None. And so we are wasting our time. When we talk about a threshold of an impeachment inquiry, was there a House floor vote that had a majority of members of Congress that opened an impeachment inquiry into President Clinton?
There was.
There was. Was there a full House floor vote opening an impeachment inquiry into President Trump?
In 2019.
Is there one here for this one?
Not for this one.
There is not one here for this one. This is an embarrassment. An embarrassment to the time and people of this country. And I would ask that the chair and I would ask that this committee elevate to the promise of our duties here and comport ourselves with the consistency and practice that is required of our seats and our duty and our oath to our responsibilities here. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Goffin for 5 minutes. Chair now recognizes Ms. Green from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On July 25th, 2023, Chairman Comer and I sent the Department of Justice a letter requesting information related to victims of Hunter Biden, specifically women he sexually exploited and then claimed as deductions on his taxes through his law firm. But he never paid those taxes. Not surprisingly, the Department of Justice did not respond. After the DOJ's sweetheart Hunter Biden deal fell apart, by the way, led by the special counsel David Weiss, on September 8th, 2023, Chairman Comer and I again sent a letter to the same DOJ officials asking about victims' rights issues related to Hunter Biden's sexual exploitations. DOJ once again failed to respond. Well, yesterday I found out why they don't want to talk with us. In a new email just released, by the way, from October 2020, could you please display the email? The Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, DOJ, Tax, FBI, and IRS described evidence they have related to Mann Act violations. By the way, the subject of the email says Mann Act. First, the title, Mann Act, then it's clear there are charges on the table while the Department of Justice is in hiding from meeting with me. The Department of Justice and IRS email and David Weiss's Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, the email states there are communications with trafficker number 1 and trafficker number 2, and that Hunter Biden had escorts who traveled across state lines. These women are victims, and the Department of Justice is refusing to protect their rights. Not only that, David Weiss, the now special counsel in charge of supposedly investigating Hunter Biden, has been clearly covering up Hunter Biden's crimes since before the 2020 election, which is undoubtedly election interference. David Weiss is complicit and must be removed from the special counsel. We also have more information we subpoenaed. Let me give you an even better example based on an interview with one of Hunter Biden's victims with law enforcement. It says here that the victim, Hunter Biden's victim, stated that Biden told her that his father was the vice president and asked to Google search his name. Hunter Biden's victim stated she told Biden she was not interested in Google searching his name and just wanted to be paid. Hunter Biden's victim stated that Biden then showed her a picture of his father with President Barack Obama. Don't forget, his father was vice president then. Hunter Biden's victim stated after she was shown the aforementioned picture, who was the vice president of the United States with the president of the United States, Barack Obama, she became afraid. After Hunter Biden's victim left the location, she arrived back at her apartment and told her friend, who she was just with, Hunter Biden's victim stated that her friend told her, "You have no idea who you're dealing with." These women were terrified, terrified. He used his father, Hunter Biden used his father, the vice president of the United States, to threaten his victim, who he had just trafficked for sex. And the Department of Justice refuses to speak to me? Hunter Biden needs to be held accountable for his sexual exploitation of women. And we've shown more evidence. We've shown evidence. This is what it looks like. This is what Mann Act violations look like.
Mr. Chairman,
I reclaim my time.
I'd like to challenge the use of this
Hunter
exhibit
Biden
under
should
Clause
be
6
held
of Rule
accountable.
17.
It is sad that my
Point
Democrat
of order.
colleagues
Point of order.
pretend to care about women's rights while allowing Hunter Biden to exploit women. This is a shame. But let's talk about...
Chairman, there's a parliamentary challenge before us.
The point of
Mr.
order.
Chairman, point of order.
Who's the point? And we'll stop the clock for you, Ms. Green.
Mr. Chairman, our colleague from Georgia has introduced before pornographic exhibits and displayed things that are really not suitable for children who might be watching. And
bathing suit's not suitable, Mr. Raskin?
Well, I'm saying I would like the member to be instructed to not introduce any pornography today, at least without running it through
A
the chair
bathing
first.
suit is not pornography,
Well, we
Mr.
can't
Raskin.
see it from down there, so you didn't make it available to the minority before you started.
Seen it before. It's
Okay.
on the internet. It's everywhere.
You are submitting a naked woman's body.
This is a bathing suit. This is a bathing suit.
And it has not been clear before this committee.
All right.
Glasses on. Do you wear them
Okay.
or not? It's a
I have
bathing suit.
contacts in, thank
Oh,
you.
congratulations.
All right. Chair, ask Ms. Green to proceed.
Now let's talk about more evidence the Democrats have denied that's turned out to be true. We all know Joe Biden is the big guy. And we confirmed that Hunter Biden was lobbying his father. Here's another example that was just released yesterday. This is from a timeline from one of the IRS whistleblowers and quotes an email between Vuk Jeremic, a Serbian politician, and Hunter Biden. Did you have a chance to talk with the big man? He's receiving my prime minister on Wednesday. Please let me know if you think that what we discussed back in D.C. can be mentioned in the meeting. My domestic strategy, how I proceed in dealing with my government, very much depends on whether it happens or not. This is a conversation between Hunter Biden and Vuk Jeremic. This is called influence peddling. This is how Hunter Biden was selling his father's political power and influence. And this is a perfect example. This is evidence right here. I'd like to remind everyone that this is the beginning of the impeachment inquiry, where we're casting a wide net and finding every single person, whether it's last administration, the administration before that, and whether it's the current administration, that has covered up the crime of the Biden family. And we will continue pulling more evidence forward.
We're 54 seconds over, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll let Mr. Goldman go over 30 seconds. So we owe you 20 seconds to Mr. Moskowitz. It's your lucky day.
Do you think the president needs to take a more forceful stand against Israel, given the humanitarian crisis now we are seeing in Gaza?
I believe that this administration and we as a country should take a more forceful stand on the United States' commitment to human rights and protection of human rights globally. And I also think that that absolutely pertains to the humanitarian crisis that's going on in Gaza. We are seeing a refugee camp that has been bombed several times. This should be of concern to every single person, regardless of their stance on the conflict. Absolutely.
Do you back a ceasefire right now?
I am a co-sponsor of the ceasefire resolution. I think that what we are seeing right now from the potential deployment and the confirmed deployment by Human Rights Watch of white phosphorus, which is an indiscriminate weapon that is already illegal to be deployed in civilian areas. We're seeing it deployed in civilian areas. We're seeing refugee camps bombed. We're seeing thousands of children who have died. This is not war. This is chaos. And we have a responsibility to uphold our standards and commitment to human rights.
Do you think the president risks losing political support from Democrats by not taking the stand that you've outlined here?
I think this goes beyond partisanship. I think anyone who values and centers human rights and human life would be concerned if the United States continues to support this. And right now, it is current standing U.S. law. We have Leahy laws on the books that prohibit, as well as policies that prohibit U.S. assistance to aiding gross human rights violations. And what we are seeing play out on television before all of us are gross human rights violations. And I believe we have a responsibility to uphold our commitment to that.
So you think Israel's part of committing some of those human rights violations?
I believe the deployment of white phosphorus and I believe bombing a refugee camp is a human rights violation. I believe it's a war crime. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you all so much for being here. I apologize, my voice is a little hoarse, but that does not stop us from speaking up and speaking out. I can't tell you how comforting it is to have all of you here, to have our rabbinic leaders here. I went to public school, grew up and went to public school in Westchester County with a lot of precocious and compassionate kids, which is to say, I had a lot of Jewish friends growing up. And I grew up with great fellowship with the Jewish community. And, you know, to think about what Representative Bush just said, when I think about the things that the Jewish families, my Jewish friends, my Jewish community that I grew up with taught me growing up, how they shaped me. It is that the unconditional centering and value of all human dignity and life is one of the most Jewish things in the world. And the idea that calling for a ceasefire would somehow be anti-Semitic is actually so upside down.
It makes no sense.
It's actually contrary to the values of this community that helped raise me, frankly. I think so much about where we are in this moment, the courage that it takes to speak up in this moment, and the urgency of this moment. I think about the language that is being used in this moment. The language. Over 4,000 children have been killed. Over 10,000 people have died, in addition to the horror of the 12 to 1,400 lives taken on October 7th as well. And when I think about this threshold that we've passed in Gaza, 4,000 children, 10,000 innocent. And the attempts for people to call this quote unquote collateral damage. How unconscionable a term, collateral damage, to sanitize an atrocity, to make it more palatable for mass consumption. Collateral damage. We can never accept such a term.
Yes. Right.
The killing of children, the killing of innocent people will never be collateral damage. It is the damage. It is the damage. The taking and continued imperiling of hostages is the damage. Every child lost is a world lost. That is the damage. It is the center. There is nothing collateral about it. It should be our central and most guiding value, protecting the innocent.
Yes.
That is what ceasefire now means.
Yes.
And so when folks try to say and malign about what ceasefire may imply, let's make it crystal clear tonight what ceasefire means. Ceasefire means release the hostages.
Yes.
All the hostages. Ceasefire means stop the bombardment now.
Yes.
Ceasefire means defend the innocent.
Yes.
Ceasefire means transcend cycles of violence. To me, in that sense, ceasefire is not just realpolitik, it is spiritual. We are being called to be higher than our history.
Yes.
We are being called to transcend the tit for tat. We are being called to transcend the sanitation of atrocity. We are being called to center human value and human dignity above all else. That is what ceasefire now means. We will not be afraid. We will not back down. We will demand more of our president.
Yes.
We will demand better of our president.
Yes.
Ceasefire is not just an option. It is our only way out of this.
Yes. That's it.
Ceasefire means there is no military solution, only a diplomatic and cultural solution.
Yes.
A relational solution, a reckoning with ourselves and our history. That is what ceasefire now means. And I will never, ever, ever back away from those values. We are here in front of the Capitol of the United States of America. And sometimes when I land here in Washington, I call it the upside down. I call it the upside down because when the American people say up, they say down. When they say left, they go right. When 80% of American citizens say they want a ceasefire, 90-something% of this place says keep the bombardment going.
Shame.
We will not
Shame.
allow that to deter us. We will not allow that to deter us. Now is the moment. Ceasefire is the answer. And it is difficult. And there are implications. And we must wrestle with what those are. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. It means we should figure it out.
Yes.
I cannot thank everyone that is here enough so much. Thank you, Jewish Voices for Peace, that has a legitimate role in this dialogue. Thank you to our rabbis who have joined us. Thank you to Representative Rashida Tlaib, who has stood as the only Palestinian American woman in the history of the United States. And they have censured her for standing for her humanity.
Shame, shame.
We will not allow that to deter us. This is our moment.
Yes.
This is the moment for all who stand up for human dignity. Thank you to our co-leads, Representative Bush. Thank you to Delia Ramirez. Thank you to Andre Carson. Thank you to all of our co-sponsors and to every single person who is considering and weighing heavily in their heart if this is the right thing to do. I want you to take this as a sign. I want you to take this as the open door. Join us. Yes, the time is now. Yes, the sign is it. Right now, call for a ceasefire. It is the right thing to do. And that is why we're here today. Thank you all so very much.